Jesus freak here. It might sound weird, but I'm feeling both hyper motivated and completely demotivated at the same time. And I'm sure that doesn't exactly make sense, but being depressed just doesn't make sense. I said, if I had openly said in church that I prayed for God to maul me into submission to his will, and I think people on this channel probably wouldn't be shocked by such a statement. But at my church, they'd probably find it incredibly harsh. You see, a maul is basically a sledgehammer. So when someone's saying and asking God to maul him into submission, it's a pretty harsh thing to request. But I tend to feel like I need a little harshness. I spent too long with everything going up. I like to think that song, I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden along with the sunshine. There's got to be a little rain sometimes. But with that said, I feel like I've got a thundercloud over my head. I even said it coming out of church because I was laying low, which I think I mentioned. I just had an aura surrounding me, so to speak, because of, how I was carrying myself. Less flashy, darker, head hung, and I'm sure it even looked to others like I had a thunderhead over me. I tended to think of that hymn, depth of mercy, can there be mercy still reserved for me? Can my Lord his wrath forbear? Me, the chief of sinners, spare. Which I'm sure, Wesley was just echoing the language of Paul. In talking to people, I've mentioned the phrase worm theology. And I've seen, there's a lot more feel-goodism in churches in general. I said, you go back about 200, 250 years, you're not going to find that. You're going to find this same kind of doom and gloom stuff that I'm talking on my worst days. In fact, I'd argue that was probably the norm right up until like the 50s and 60s. I'm like, maybe there's just not enough doom and gloom in the services anymore. You know, this sort of, remember, we're sinful people by our very nature. We're evil by default. And frankly, God's even considered wiping us out more than once. Being like, these people aren't worth saving. Once he actually went so far as to say, oh, I'm taking you eight. The rest of you ain't even worth saving. We're just gonna wipe you all out. I've said, sometimes I feel like the only reason I'm still around is my firmly held belief that ending it early just replaces temporary pain with permanent pain. And by permanent, I mean eternal. I've tried it. I haven't honestly tried it in 25 odd years, but I used to I used to really spend a lot more time walking around with a thundercloud over me. Probably never really go away. And honestly, I don't think I want it to go away. It's a reminder of my weaknesses, my human weaknesses. A reminder that I can't do this alone. A reminder that I need a power greater than myself because I can't handle things alone. Yes, I'm a gloomy person sometimes. We, as faith, used to be a lot gloomier. I mean, that's why you have the stereotypes you do of the Puritans back in, the 17th century. That they were such gloomy people, which maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But the idea, they just didn't care about this life. But they weren't about to cut it short to go on to the next either. Now, this depressed state comes and goes. Maybe in a few days you feel fine. Honestly, I'd rather ride it out. Which the other option be turned into a zombie. I'd rather just, ride the waves. Into every life a little rain must fall. Jesus freak out.